I'll tell you what, I got this feeling that Oscar Piastri did to Max Verstappen what Max Verstappen has done to hundreds of his rivals in the past while racing in Formula One. Let me elaborate. Okay. Firstly, Oscar got the better start. Offline P2, 5-8 meters behind in the staggered grid. He got that better start. We saw the numbers on Viaplay, 3/10 quicker to 200 kilometers per hour than Max Verstappen. And mind you, we actually spoke of in the preview episode how this is just a 194 meter straight. So he got that jump on Max Verstappen at the start. Something we've seen Max do. Max has been phenomenal at his starts. Max just had a lot of wheel spin, and even more than halfway before the straight sort of ended, Oscar was ahead, which is why Max realized, oh my God, I've lost that position. I've got to do something radical. I'm going to do what I'm great at doing, take the outside and act like I didn't make the corner, because, hey, Oscar's also going to brake late and not make the corner, which is why I think this was the second point where Oscar did what Max Verstappen does. Dive bomb, go in late, make that corner and act like, oh my God, but there was no space I could give a rival. And he was so lucky that he had a couple of his left tires, front and rear, on the good side of the white line. Otherwise, both the drivers would have been off track. So I think he just Max Verstappen. That's what I'm going to say.
Yeah. And for the first time, I saw Red Bull Racing and Max left without an answer. Max didn't have anything to say on the track. He didn't have anything to say in the post-race interview. And Christian Horner had a lot to say, which means clearly there is not a lot to say, when he actually brought out an image showing that, I find it hilarious. He's done that so many times. An image showing that Max Verstappen actually was ahead at the apex of the corner. You can use that rule to the T as much as you want, Sundaram, but the fact of the matter is, he was not making turn two, and everything from that point onwards seemed desperate. To me, the fact that they didn't even accept the fact that Max made a mistake there was crazier, because had they just let Oscar go, maybe it would have kept them closer. Maybe they would have been, I don't know, a second and a half behind Oscar instead of 5 seconds behind, as they ended up being after the penalty.
When was the last time you've seen Red Bull actually admit to them making a mistake, because see, we often hear this saying that the race is never won on the first corner. I think in this situation it really was won in the first corner, and I think, like you said, Max kind of realized that Oscar's kind of beaten him to the first corner, and there's really no way to kind of challenge for the win than by going off track and trying to make a race out of it. And see, what Red Bull is really trying to do, or what Max has always tried to do, is try to play the rule book, the regulation that you need to be ahead at the apex. If you don't make the corner, that's a different story altogether. But if I am the car ahead at the apex, then I deserve to be given position. That's all that they're really playing into. I've really not seen the photographs that Christian's talking about, but if that's really the case, he probably has a valid point. But then I think it's the rule book that's a little flawed. If the driver can't make the corner that comes after it, it really is a very tricky situation in that regard. And what I also think is it's a very smart play to go off track and let the stewards decide who's wrong, because Max does understand that the stewards are a little inconsistent, and it also kind of builds a little bit of anxiety probably in the driver behind. I'm like, okay, when are the stewards going to give the penalty? When am I going to get the position? Am I going to get the position at all? How big is the penalty going to be? Is it going to be 5 seconds, 10 seconds? So you're trying to psychologically try and play your opponent, and by that time they've probably also worn down the tires a little. It's a smart play. I wouldn't say it's, you really have to be very ethical, and I think Max really knows that he has to play according to the rule book. I think it's a very smart way of doing it.
I'll tell you what, I think I was actually tuning in to watch 50 laps of a battle. And I think the one thing Max Verstappen did, and the FIA, of course, I think they've been consistent. Like Sundaram also pointed out, in 2021, Max did the same thing to Lewis, got a penalty, whatever. But I think the race was just decided within 200 meters. Literally. One of the reasons Max wanted to stay ahead is how important clean air is, because when Leclerc was in clean air, there was a different story. When Norris was in clean air, there was a different story. So I think Max just cost us a great battle. He robbed us of a fantastic battle. And guys, actually, come to think of it, we are yet to see a worthy wheel-to-wheel battle in 2025. We're 5 races in, 6 if you count the sprint. I'm saying at the top, papaya rules have avoided, or papaya rules have meant that the McLaren drivers haven't fought in Suzuka. McLaren drivers were told not to fight or whatever. Lando couldn't go there, and Oscar was not allowed a chance. And then, we've not yet had a battle wheel-to-wheel for the race win. I would say, and 5 races in, 6 if you count the sprint.
And with drivers like Oscar Piastri who are able to hold position with such nonchalance, I think that just makes their case easier, right? You don't need to have a big fight to win. You just need to be good at one decisive moment. And there, Oscar was perfect. I hate to bring in other drivers to showcase how one driver is so good, but there have been times previously when Lando, or other drivers in fact as well, have capitulated when Max has attacked them that way. Oscar didn't seem like that. As a 24-year-old, that level of maturity is insane. And it just dawned upon me when I was sitting after the race, after having done commentary, thinking, oh man, this guy could well be a world champion already. Because last year, we were discussing about his struggles with qualifying and tire management, but here we are now, and he seems complete. Leader of the world championship, most wins this season, back-to-back race wins. I mean, I'm mighty impressed with what I see, and also the decisiveness in overtaking. He had one opportunity to get past Lewis Hamilton, and he took it with both hands. That was so impressive. It's a very unconventional place to go passing Kunal, seriously. And we saw Lando struggle behind Lewis Hamilton for so long. Again, different circumstances, different tires, everything. But still, one opportunity and you take it.
And that was another Max Verstappen-esque move by
Yeah.
Oscar Piastri. He knew that he had to overtake Lewis. McLaren pitted him for that undercut attempt, whatever, even though he was going to come back in traffic. GP told Max, don't worry, we don't want you to come out in traffic. Keep out on track. So he was out on track for a couple of more laps than Oscar. But Oscar knew that that overtake was decisive. On Lewis, he pulled it off on the marbles, on, whatever, throwing up all the dust. But again, very Max Verstappen-esque. He knew he had to go for the win, and he went for that overtake. And every moment when he needed to be decisive, he was very, very decisive. I would still say it's early days to call that it's going to be Oscar's championship, if this is how close everything is going to be. But McLaren's
The raw
conundrum,
materials. Yeah, the raw materials of a champion are clearly there.
Let's remember, he's 51 races in only, in Formula 1, Formula 3 champion, Formula 2 champion. And, I said this on Viaplay, it's one thing to have a quick car. It's another thing to win, dominate, get everything right with the quick car. And I loved what Oscar said on Thursday before Saudi. He said, I've been actually preparing for this all winter because I knew in the off season that we're going to have a quick car, and that I will have a very good shot at the Drivers' Championship this year. And this could well be that big year in my career.
We very seldom get to see the lesser experienced driver kind of overshadowing the more experienced one. Looking at how teams nowadays want to not have two alpha drivers and really want to steer away from all the politics and the dynamics that really happens, you often see a driver who's that much good and one that's slightly lesser good, and you often never see them crossing paths. The last one you'd probably talk about is Nico Rosberg and Lewis Hamilton, eventually through 2016. But I really like Oscar Piastri's arc that way, that he's someone who started on the back foot over the last 2 years, was able to match Lando, but at never point was able to get past him or really kind of dominate him. And what he's kind of done over these last 5 races, most race wins this year, most pole positions this year, has the most points this year, is leading the championship. That's a very good journey. It's a very good story about how Oscar Piastri's Formula One career has started. And he's only into his third season, so he's only going to get better and better. And that's something I'm very excited to see.